28 male, knew her since college, and I'll get that out of the way first. The past few days have shown a different side of her that's a little surprising because Kate is her best friend from college. My wife, Nancy, wanted to do a mini talent show at our reception, and she talked it up beforehand too. She read a poem that she made for the event, and Kate performed a song that she wrote. Long story short, one of the guests who I invited is into producing, and he reached out to her after she performed. They exchanged information, and Kate was really excited. He wanted to network with her following the reception, and she even thanked my wife for hosting the talent show over text, but Nancy became really bitter about it, and that's why I'm writing this. She hasn't responded to Kate's message, and she said she regretted doing the talent show too. She also asked me to block Edward, the producer, on my socials/contacts, and I told her that that seemed a bit much. She didn't like my answer and said that I was wrong to not take her side after just getting married, but I told her that she should be happy for her friend. She didn't like that either and vented to some in our friend group about how Kate was bragging, but some of them disagreed. She said she didn't want to hang out with them for the time being, and that included me too. Two of her girlfriends even texted me that she was overreacting and that they were also surprised to see her act that way. They also asked if she was okay too. My dad is suggesting counseling and said that asking me to remove friends is an unhealthy way to start a marriage, and I'm honestly more than a little scared. I asked if she'd be open to counseling, but she said there was no need because Kate was her friend first and I shouldn't choose Kate over her. I just want to ask what to do next since she refuses counseling and sees no issue with cutting off our friends. Update 1. A lot of it still feels surreal having known her since my early 20s and the 180 after the wedding. I want to address a few things that were asked in my first post before getting to the update. Nancy and Kate were not the only ones who performed in the talent show. During planning, Nancy said she wanted to showcase her friends and how awesome/proud she was to have them. She also said it was a bonding thing between her girlfriends, from our friend group, and the girls were the ones who performed. However, given her post-reception 180, it really surprised me in comparison to her pre-talent show mindset. A few people commented that she didn't need to have a talent show to read the poem she made for the wedding. She could have just read it at any time as the bride. The reason I'm writing this post is because of something else that came up and led to a conversation. We had a vacation coming up, but she no longer wants to go on it. In the time since my first post, she's continued to have random mood swings due to thinking about Kate. Sometimes that's venting about how Kate would have nothing without her or getting really quiet and distant, even while eating. She's also still upset at her girlfriends who she vented to about Kate. But when they disagreed and called her out for being bitter over a talent show no one forced her to have, she told me to cut off our friend group along with blocking the producer/girlfriends too. When I disagreed, she became distant and said I was choosing them over her. My dad suggested counseling and talking to her again because asking me to cut off friends was an unhealthy start to the relationship. So I talked to her after my first post and asked if she'd be open to it, but she said there was no need because all I had to do was cut them off. She also said I was choosing them over her and that she wouldn't go on our vacation until I did. When I asked her why Kate bothered her so much, she said she tried to publish in the past, a novel, and didn't get any hand-me-downs then. But when I reminded her that my friend was a producer on the side in his basement, she said I should have known better than to invite him, as if I should have known he would have liked Kate's song. When I told her that I wouldn't block the producer/entire friend group, she said I was entitled like Kate and that she wanted a break because I didn't care about her. I told her that I love her but didn't think it was healthy to cut off everyone. I also told her that she should be happy for her friend because Kate was really grateful, but she didn't seem to care. She has since gone to stay with her parents and left some of her things in our apartment. I talked to my dad after she ignored texts/calls for a few days, and he suggested bringing up an annulment because it had gone too far. Her parents have also ignored my calls, but I want to clarify Kate's text before I'm done. Kate wasn't arrogant or anything to Nancy. All she did was thank her for putting together the talent show that allowed her to network with the producer after the wedding, and she also offered to take her out to lunch as thanks. There was no arrogance from Kate, and the producer is also engaged, as some people inquired about too. I'm just really surprised and hurt that her bitterness turned me into a bad guy for inviting my producer friend, as if I was supposed to see into the future and not invite him. Update 2. Just wanted to come back to conclude this because it's been helpful to hear opinions and get everything out. A lot of people asked how I was in messages, and there were too many to reply to. We are currently in the process of a divorce. She's staying with her parents, and I've had some time to process and see things differently. I want to touch on two things that's happened since my update. The first is a Facebook post she made about me and the guests. In her post, she said he was supposed to win and that it was an unwritten rule for the bride to win, as if wedding talent shows are normal. She also accused them of smiting her on her day when no one knew about the show beforehand except her participating friends. She then accused me of taking Kate's side instead of comforting her as her new husband, but taking her side meant cutting off our friend group as she had in the aftermath. I don't know how her parents feel after she called out both sides of the guests, but I really don't care at this point. She also wanted me to cut off my producer friend, Edward, who approached Kate after she sang her original song and asked if they wanted to collab sometime. And I want to focus on that I talked to Edward recently about everything, including how she wanted me to cut him off, and he couldn't believe how much it affected her. Nancy and I watched a football game at his house with him and his fiancée some months back, and he has a day job in an office. When I told him about how Nancy was jealous of Kate's big break, he couldn't believe it and said that he planned to let Kate use his audio interface to plug into her guitar and record a high-quality instrumental of her original along with his microphone too. He also said he wasn't great at mixing and was taking online courses to learn, so he was gonna suggest that she commission someone to mix/enhance the files they'd record because he was far from a professional. He's a really chill guy, but he couldn't stop laughing over how Nancy thought that he was all that. He only wanted to use his interface to give her a high-quality recording after learning that she didn't have equipment and recorded her original on her phone. He and his fiancée planned to have her for dinner, just like they had me and Nancy over for football, and recorded in the basement afterwards. Looking back in hindsight, it's crazy how you can be blinded to things, but I never imagined just how crazy she could get. I didn't say this in my first 2 posts because I thought it might overshadow her actions, but she sometimes posts about women empowerment on her socials, and I recently thought about that for one reason. When I asked her why she wanted to have a talent show, she said she wanted to emphasize the importance of having good friends because they were important to a relationship. But as I look at it now, perhaps it was never about that. Nancy was bothered the second that Kate's song got a better reception than her, and she doubled down when she vented to 2 of her girlfriends after the wedding who called her out for being jealous, and that made her demand I also cut off our friend group. To everyone who asked what her poem was about, it was about women empowerment and the importance of having good friends and family when starting a family, and she told me the premise beforehand although she never showed me the poem. She wanted it to be a surprise, but I never had a chance to see it on paper after the wedding for reasons. Many people also corrected how she said that Kate received a hand-me-down opportunity at the wedding, but the proper term was handout as many corrected. I really appreciate everyone who offered advice as it helped a lot mentally, not to mention looking back at how crazy it all was. Just hoping to fully get over it as time goes on, but I've gotten over some of it recently. Update 3 months later, I'm grateful that everything came out when it did, and we are officially no longer together. She wanted nothing to do with me after accusing me of taking Kate's side by refusing to cut off friends who said she overreacted when she vented about Kate stealing her thunder by getting a better reception for her song, among other hateful things she said about her, and that made the process easier. However, months later, Nancy's still not over it, but I want to give an update on Kate first. Kate reached out to me towards the end of the divorce process because Nancy took out her frustration on her, and she told me some things I didn't know. I mentioned in my first update that Kate sent a text thanking Nancy for the opportunity to sing at the wedding after it led to her meeting the producer, and she sent shortly after the reception. However, unbeknownst to me, Nancy sent her DMs blaming her for the divorce before it was official, and that was news to me. She told me she was sorry for performing at the wedding along with the divorce, but I told her that she had nothing to apologize for. Her best friend, Nancy, asked her to perform, and she simply did, but Nancy didn't stop at DMs. Since my last update and the divorce becoming official, Nancy went online to make her feelings public, not just about Kate but the friends who said she was overreacting too. She said that her friends should have talked her out of the talent show because friends look after each other, when the talent show was her idea entirely that she pushed for against suggestions otherwise. She accused them of being fake friends who never had her back and sided with Kate over her, and she had the nerve to tag them too. However, she left the worse for Kate. She accused Kate, and her friends, of setting her up on her day, and she made a separate Facebook post to rant about Kate. She also called her a B among other things, but she also disclosed some mental health challenges/medications from Kate's past, and it was petty and very inappropriate. I want to reiterate that Kate was her best friend long before me, but she also disclosed a very personal event, that I never knew about, from Kate's life which was wrong, and it led to people finding out that Kate hadn't told and caused her a lot of stress. From what I've heard, some of the people in Nancy's friend group reached out to me before the divorce too, and one of them we'll call Hannah, who knew Nancy before me too, said that she knew about Nancy's struggles to publish as she vented years back, after I told her about my talk with Nancy where she brought up her publishing struggles, and she said that many of them tried to encourage her. However, she never saw that jealous side of her despite knowing her for much longer, and she thinks it was the culmination of wedding stress among other things, but she didn't want to chalk it up to just that because she said that that was a deeper insecurity. She also told me to not beat myself up too much because her friend group never saw that side of her too, and they knew her for years before me. Nancy's friend group has since cut her off, but the last thing I'll say is on Kate. Kate and her friends have been really supportive and even apologized for not talking her out of the talent show beforehand, but I told them that they had nothing to apologize for because Nancy accused me of inviting my producer friend and not magically knowing that he would have networked with Kate. Hannah said that Kate's been really hurt about the sensitive posts and having to explain to people she never told. She also said that Kate's thinking of trying to go after Nancy legally, but she's not sure if anything can be done since it was on Facebook, now deleted, although she got screenshots, but it's apparently taken a toll on her mental health to the point that she's trying to see her options. I won't come back to this again because it doesn't really involve me at this point, but I'm trying my best to be supportive of her too because she didn't deserve any of this, but I hope it all works out for her in time whether she decides to pursue legally or not. Now on to second story. Innocently shared my traumatic pregnancy experience with my coworkers, and now Linda excludes me from social events and is openly hostile. A new coworker started 3 months ago. Let's call her Linda. She seems pretty nice, which is why I'm really not sure about all this. At my work, we have a tradition where once a new employee successfully completes their probation, we go out for a team lunch. Nothing fancy, but something nice to celebrate. Linda passed her probation, so we went out for lunch. As we're eating, we all get to talking, and the topic of the magic of pregnancy/childbirth comes up. Everyone was sharing sweet moments from their pregnancy. I enthusiastically joined in but didn't share any of my own. I think Linda noticed because she specifically turned to me and said, "Linda, you had twins, didn't you? That must have been a wonderful experience." I smiled and said something along the lines of how I wished my pregnancy and birth had been as positive an experience as theirs had been. To be clear, it was not said sarcastically at all. The truth is I hated every moment of being pregnant. I could write a long list of all the magical symptoms I had, but I'll just give you the highlights. Horrific vivid nightmares. Hyperemesis gravidarum, severe morning sickness. Debilitating migraines. A metallic taste in my mouth. And then the birth. Honestly, I feel like anything that could go wrong, but not be life-threatening, did go wrong. Worst of all, due to some of the complications I ended up being kept in hospital for a while, so I missed the first few days with my girls. It's safe to say I hated every moment of being pregnant, and every moment of labor. It was not a magical experience by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't say any of this to Linda, I just responded as I mentioned. After my reply, Linda started getting short with me. Later, I asked her privately what was going on. She snapped and told me what I said was insensitive and undermined their experiences and told me I was an a-hole for it. Since then, she's sort of cooled off, and is less hostile, or at least less openly hostile, but last week she invited all the girls in the team to a ladies' night. Everyone but me. Now, I don't mind so much, since ladies' nights are not really my thing, but the fact that she pointedly excluded me has made things awkward. I feel like I need to do something. I'm not really in the mood for drama. I have enough of that in my life right now. I don't need more, so I haven't confronted her about it yet. And as I said, she is otherwise a really nice person, normally pretty friendly and easygoing. So I'm left wondering if I really was an a-hole. Was what I said insensitive? Did it undermine their experience? Before I ask her about it, I could use some perspective because I honestly just don't know. Ida? Well, our team is more or less all women with kids or grandkids, so the conversation kind of went that way. Linda was talking about how she missed being pregnant and how she wanted another kid, so I don't know if she has any issues getting pregnant. Not as far as I am aware. Top commenter, good lord, so NTA. I would have wondered if she was pregnant with the way she responded. I also had a very miserable pregnancy and a serious life-threatening event, heart failure, so I can't relate to these stories. You weren't being sarcastic, you weren't telling these women that they sucked for having positive experiences, you didn't call them liars. You just shared your experience. Oop, it might be. The conversation came about because she was talking about how much she wished she was pregnant again, she has a 2-year/0, and how she misses being pregnant. Could be she is in fact pregnant. But if she is, she clearly doesn't know it. Commenter, NTA, you have the right to feel as you do about your pregnancy and it in no way reflects on anyone else's experience. Leave this person alone, no need to bring up her reaction to you or her remarks. She's judgmental and who needs it? LOL, just do your job and leave it at that. Oop, I see your point. I'm just trying to make sure we can continue to work together as smoothly as possible. I don't mind being excluded from her personal life. It's clear we're not going to be friends. But I don't want for her to exclude me from important emails or meetings. So we should work something out, or at least clear the air, you know? Commenter, NTA. Linda is playing mean girl, and you are her first target. Oop, until now she has always seemed so nice. We've always had a laugh and nice chats and otherwise gotten along. I really hope this is not the case. Commenter, NTA, she's the new drama llama, and you're the first victim she happened to pick the day she was off probation. Oop, I hadn't thought about that. She had been so nice before, and now probation is over, perhaps she is showing her true side. Commenter, NTA at all. It would have been borderline if you regaled them with a horror show, but even then, that's simply just truthful. Not everything is sunshine and unicorns, and while some are ill-equipped to handle reality, that's a them problem, not a you problem. Oop, this is why I didn't bring it up. I didn't want to put a downer on things or take away from their wonderful experiences. Also, they were talking positive experiences so mine wasn't really on topic, you know? And honestly, the less I remember about those awful months the better TBH. Everyone else is treating me the same as they always have. And I asked her about why she was being off with me in private so they didn't see/hear that interaction. I'm not sure if anyone has noticed I wasn't invited out. If they have, they haven't said anything. Update 1. Since posting, I have kept my distance from Linda as recommended by commenters, which has been tough because our work often overlaps and, you know, we're in the same team. Since then, I noticed she has snapped at other coworkers as well. I figured that commenters were right, that now her probation was over, the nice girl act was over. Things were awkward. Then, I heard her crying in the bathroom. I didn't want to get involved in case it caused another fight, but I also couldn't just leave her there when there might be a problem, so I told Tina, our team lead, who then went to check on Linda. A while later, Tina came back and said she had sent Linda home as she wasn't feeling well. A few days later, Linda came back to work. She asked to speak to me. Alone. It probably wasn't the best idea, but I agreed to. And I'm glad I did. Linda apologized for how she snapped at me. I asked why she excluded me from ladies' night. She said she didn't invite me to the ladies' night because I had told her I didn't like them. To be fair, I have a vague memory of this coming up in conversation a while ago. But she had something else to tell me. It turns out, some of you were right. Linda is pregnant. When she got sent home, her boyfriend asked her to take a pregnancy test because the last time she was pregnant, she got super broody, and her mood was all over the place, being happy one minute, bursting into tear the next, then being super irritable. As bad as she was being at work, she was even worse at home. She took a test and, yep, she's pregnant. She told me she wanted me to be the first person in the office to know about it. I guess it was her way of apologizing? I accepted her apology and chose to believe her about the ladies' night, albeit cautiously. I'm still keeping a slight guard up, because who knows, for all I know this is some game she's playing, but for now, I am choosing to take her at her word. Obviously, her being pregnant doesn't excuse how she spoke to me, but it does explain it, and if that genuinely is the issue, then hopefully that means the issue is solved. Top commenter, sounds like an excuse. I wouldn't believe anything she said. Being pregnant is not an excuse to treat people like that. I am still keeping a cautious distance. I am choosing to believe her presently unless I hear or see anything to the contrary. I don't know if she is telling the truth, but I don't see any point in creating any further drama. I am keeping my guard up. I guess I will see what happens. And I totally agree it is no excuse to treat people that way. She did, and it seemed genuine. Due to a toxic family member, I've had to learn what a genuine apology looks like, and it did seem very much like a genuine one. So I am hopeful this is genuine, although I don't discount that she knows how to make an apology sound genuine but she doesn't mean it. I am hoping it is a genuine one, but I am prepared if it isn't. Commenter, I think, as a general rule, you should avoid taking work friendships out of the workplace. I know that sometimes you meet coworkers and you just click, but there are written and unwritten rules that govern work behavior. When you blur the lines, especially if drinking or indulging in decriminalized recreational drug use are involved, it's safer to hold back a bit unless you want your company to know all your business. Socializing with coworkers should be considered a work environment. To be honest, although I get along with my colleagues, we don't hang out or interact outside of work, aside from if we happen to see one another out and about we say hi. But we do sometimes have work gatherings like the team lunch, which was held during working hours, or every year we have a Christmas party, also during working hours. I don't think I have ever hung out with any of my colleagues outside of work.